Alright. Smoking this bowl live. Yo, what's good, Sims? Time to delete some fucking useless people off my Facebook, sons. Time to delete some useless pieces of shit off of my Facebook. Alright, so it's time to get. Remember how much fun it was when I used to show you all these big titted local women try to become my friends, but they're really just robots? Yeah. Remember all those robots with big tits with no mutual friends who just created their profile 1 week ago? Yo, what's up, THC? Smart. Yeah, I have a shit ton more books. Halo? 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 Okay. Let's see here. Yo, THC, I picked up like I picked up like 70 more books, maybe like 50 to 70 more new books. Alright, well, here. I'm going to give the Hangout link to a whole bunch of people so you guys can talk. Here. Here's the link. There. I'm just going to be deleting a whole bunch of people off my Facebook, like I usually do. I'm just chilling. Gonna delete up. Where are my books, boy? I got you, Candy. I got you. Who are these fucking clowns? Oh boy. There's a lot. Wow, there's a lot of people. I have like 800 friend requests. Probably more. Oh boy. This is gonna take. Alright, so let's see. So. Wow. If I added everyone. Uh, Sean. Lucas. What the fuck? Dude, am I supposed to like add all these people? Wow. This is insane. Oh wow. Wow. Wait, whoa, 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 whoa. What is going on here? Alright, yeah, I'm just gonna do that. Alright. Yeah. Dennis Cash. Why does it look so familiar? Plus, I feel like you are one of the ones who believe the lies about me, and I thought you should know better. Really, Candy? Sheesh. Yeah, you should know I don't believe any of that bullshit. Wow. Maybe a lot of people. Add. Shit ton of people here. Who the fuck is it? Who are these people? Oh my god. This dude has changed his name. This dude is a different name now. This dude changed his name. This dude changed his name. Wait, what? Holy shit. What is the Lakers score? The Lakers are done. Play. It's not the end of the season, land-powered math. It's the start of the playoffs, which is the beginning of the season. Peaceful sleep. Don't give me this. Don't give me that K bullshit. Give me that K bullshit. Got all these fucking. Delete, 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 delete. Delete. Oh, there's so many fucking. It's just so many people. It's just ridiculous. It's like, really? I gotta add all these people, I gotta delete all these people. 85 mutual friends. Fuck it. God damn it. Son of a bitch, dude. There's gonna be a lot of people. Jedediah, stand-up comedian. Alright, stand-up comedian. Stand-up comedian. Let's see how you stand up. Comedian. Big titted bitch. Goodbye. 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 Big tits. Big tits. Big tits. Big tits. Big tits. Big tits. Goodbye. You're a robot. You're a robot. 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 Sean Gerberg. You guys know Sean Gerberg, right? Jake DeSalvo. Yeah. Who's that? Sean Gerberg. It's from Drunk News Network. Saw at him. Sean. Sam. Delete. What's up? How you guys doing? How you guys doing? How you guys feeling? Good night, bed. How you doing? How you feeling? What are you doing? How you feeling? I'm just deleting people, adding some people. So many fucking people. Like, yeah, fuck it. Might as well. Word. chilling. I'm chilling here with you guys. See you, Felix. God damn it. Oh. Holy shit. Wow.
Don't have a lot of. Imagine the idea that the moment you were born, you were kicked off the edge of a precipice and you're falling. As you fell, a great lump of rock came with you and is traveling alongside you. And you're clinging to it for dear life and thinking, gee, I've got to hold on to this. See? Well, it doesn't do a thing for you. And it's only making you anxious. And it's only when you understand that it doesn't do a thing for you that you let go and relax. So everybody's in this situation. We're all completely insecure. We're all headed straight for death as if we had been condemned by a judge. And yet here we are all clinging on to things. And we have all sorts of alibis for doing this. We say, well, I have responsibilities for my dependents and I've got to cling on. But all you're teaching your dependents to cling the same way as you are. And making them miserable by learning to go on surviving compulsively. So the thing is, same way, if you're caught in a torrent and you try to get out of it by swimming against it, you'll just wear yourself out and you're still carried along with it. So the sensible thing to do is to turn around and swim with it. And if you want to get out of it, swim towards the edge. But go with it. Same way when you're sailing. Always keep the wind in your sails. If you want to go against the wind, tack. But use the wind. So it's this way. We're all in this great stream of change, which we call life. We are the stream. If you imagine you're separate from it and you're being carried along by it as if you were a cork, that's a delusion. You're a wave of the stream itself. So get with it. So the course of time is really very much like the course of a ship in the ocean. Because here's the ship, you see, and it leaves behind it a weight. And the weight fades out. And that tells us where the ship has been. In just the same way as the past and our memory of the past tells us what we have done. But as we go back into the past, and we go back and back to prehistory, and we use all kinds of instruments and scientific methods for detecting what happened, we eventually reach a point where all record of the past fades away in just the same way as the weight of the ship. Now, the important thing to remember in this illustration is that the weight doesn't drive the ship any more than the tail wags the dog. Supposing there's a neurotic, difficult child, and one school of thought used to say, well, bang him about, beat him up, and maybe he'll change. But then they said, oh no, that's not fair to the child to beat him up, because it was his parents. They didn't bring him up properly. And so then they said, well, punish the parents. Well, the parents say, excuse me, but our parents were neurotic too, and they brought us up badly, so we couldn't help what we did. And so since the grandparents are dead, we can't get a friend. And in any case, supposing we would, we would pass the whole blame back to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And they started all this mess. But then Eve would say, no, the serpent tempted me and I did eat, and it was the serpent's fault. Well, you know, when God, in the story of Genesis, asked Eve, didst thou eat the fruit of the tree whereof I told thee thou shouldst not eat? She said, well, it was the serpent tempted me, and I did eat. God looked at the serpent. The serpent didn't make any excuse. Probably me. Because the serpent, being an angel, was wise enough to know where the present begins.
The serpent being an angel. The serpent being an angel. The most important lesson. The most important lesson you will ever know.
So, if I may start by insulting your intelligence with what is called the most elementary lesson. The thing that we should have learned before we learned 1, 2, 3 and ABC, but somehow was overlooked. Now, this lesson is quite simply this, that any experience that we have through our senses, whether of sound or of light or of touch, is a vibration. And a vibration has two aspects, one called on and the other called off. Vibration seems to be propagated in wave.
Mold insurance kind of sucks, but lemonade is different. When you pay us, we take a small flash fee.
But you see then, once we are up against this possibility that the distinction between what we do and what happens to us is obliterated. And therefore we would say with Hindus and Buddhists that if I run into a catastrophe, it is my karma. You see, that means far more than that it is a punishment for something I did wrong in the past. That is a legalistic view of karma. But a naturalistic or organic view of karma is, in fact, that what happens to me is what I do. And that in a certain sense, I want what happens. We can use want. Notice how we use this word. It means the desire and it means the lack. We say to somebody, you're wanting. You're deficient in something. You need. So it's rather alarming, really, when you consider it, that you always get what you want. Very. Even though you may think that it's entirely opposed to your wishes. But if it's your karma, everything that happens to you, put it in another way, everything that comes to you is a return to you of what goes out of you. Yes, obviously, that's absurd. If you confine the definition of yourself to your voluntary, conscious behavior. That's a ridiculous definition of oneself. Oneself, by any stretch of the imagination, must involve far more than the conscious and voluntary aspects of our behavior. And if we see that it involves intimately and inescapably the behavior of what we call the other, the not self, the environment, and see that these two are moving together like the two sides of the snake when it swims, then you get a very curious view.
Sounds.
You have to be careful of it, because you've got a Western background. Because this is what happens to a lot of people who play around with psychedelic chemicals. There are many, many cases of inflation among these people.
Spiritual
That is to say,
inflation.
when you get the sensation that the two sides of the world, the inside and the outside, are moving together, you may think, I am ruling. I am God in the Western sense of the word. Therefore, your ego, instead of being, as it were, integrated and transcended in this process, merely assumes vast dimensions, as megalomania is blown up by the mystical experience. And so you get the holier-than-thou people going around, who seem to think that they're above all human conventions and have no obligations to anyone or anything, because they're divine and they can do as they damn please. What they haven't realized is that doing as you will isn't a new kind of behavior that you suddenly put on and say, from now on I'm going to go around doing as I will. You have to realize first that that's what you've always been doing. And you can look at this from a very simple point of view. It's not a complete point of view. But you can say, well, now what about the people who did good and who did the things that they didn't want to do? You know, everybody's mother said to us, darling, sometimes we have to do things we don't like. What about that? Well, you can always say, the kid obeyed the mother and did the thing that he didn't like because that was the better part of wisdom. In other words, if he hadn't done that, something worse would have happened. And we choose the lesser of two evils. And when you find yourself in a situation where you have to choose the lesser of two evils, then you say, I want out of here. You take the easiest way. You take a line of least resistance. So that's your doing. Now, you can pursue that more profoundly. When you stop thinking about human behavior as something that responds to the compulsion of an environment. And you can get out of that when you see the behavior of the environment as an essential aspect of you. So it isn't, as it were, the environment starting something, but you are therefore compelled to follow. It's the whole system moving together. So then, you get in the state of liberated or mystical consciousness. You very often feel that the hill is lifting you up as you walk up it. The ground seems to heave beneath your feet and up you go. And you get this strange feeling of lightness, of effortlessness, walking on air, never a care. You know, this wonderful sense that there are no obstructions anywhere. There's nothing, as it were, banging you and making you do that. It all flows together. That's a very common sense. That's, you are actually, in that state of consciousness, you are perceiving the goings-on, the Tao, the course of nature, in the way it's happening. But in the ordinary way, you've been conditioned to resist it, to fight it, and to use those sensations of resistance to create a sensory basis for what you describe as the ego. The ego, in practice, is a sense of strength. When you are aware of I, you are aware of this basic discomfort, which is located basically between the eyes. Somewhere here. So tightness. Also, it's another sense too. The solar plexus. And a very physical sentence. In other words, there's constant tension or resistance against it is going on. And that's what you feel when you talk about I. when that tension ceases, you discover immediately that the separate ego has disappeared, and that what I refers to is simply the total panorama of experience, everything that's happened. That's I. Now, obviously, I don't know all of it, because I can't inspect all of it with my radar, with my consciousness. That would be a ridiculous undertaking, to know everything in that sense. To know it in a much better way, as we know how to grow hair and everything else like that. So, this point of view can be understood if we clarify the initial problems we have about it. And I suppose the first problem is, if we accept the notion that everything that happens to us is our own power, our own doing, then we have to be very careful, how shall we say, the devil of omnipotence, of inflation, of feeling that your ego is what is in control of all this. And the second thing is, if you think that, how does your head look to your eyes? Well, I tell you, it looks like what you see out in front of you. Because all that you see out in front of you is how you feel inside your head. So it's the same with this. And so, for this reason, the great sixth patriarch, 29th, in China, said that it was a great mistake for those who were practicing Buddhist meditation to try to make their minds empty. And a lot of people tried to do that. They sat down and tried to have no thoughts whatever in their minds. Not only no thoughts, but no sense experiences. So they'd close their eyes, they'd plug up their ears, and generally go in for sensory deprivation. Well, sensory deprivation, if you know how to handle it, can be quite interesting. It'll have the same sort of results as taking LSD or something like that. And there are special labs made nowadays where you can be sensorily deprived to an amazing degree. But if you're a sort of a good yogi, this doesn't bother you at all. It sends some people crazy. But if you dig this world, you can have a marvelous time in a sensory deprivation scene. Also, especially if they get you into a condition of weightlessness. Skin divers going down below a certain number of feet, I don't know exactly how far it is, but get a sense of weightlessness. And at the same time, this deprives them of every sense of responsibility. They become alarmingly happy. And they have been known to simply take off their masks and offer them to a fish. Of course, they then drown. So if you skin dive, and you have to keep your eye on the time. You have to have a water watch or a friend who's got a string attached to you. You go down that far, and at a certain specific time, you know you have got to get back. However happy you feel, and however much inclined to say, survival, what the hell's the point of that? And this is happening to the men who go out into space. They increasingly find that they have to have automatic controls to bring them back. Quite aside that they can't change in any way from the spaceship. Isn't that interesting? Can you become weightless here? I said a little while ago that the person who really accepts transience begins to feel weightless. When Suzuki was asked, what is it like to have experienced Satori enlightenment, he said it's just like ordinary everyday experience, but about 2 inches off the ground. Zhuangzi, the Taoist, said, it is easy enough to stand still. The difficulty is to walk without touching the ground. Why do you feel so heavy? It isn't just a matter of gravitation and weight. It is that you feel that you are carrying your body around. So there is a koan in Zen Buddhism. Who is it that carries this corpse around? So when you feel it, common speech expresses this all the time. Life is a drag. I feel I'm just dragging myself around. My body is a burden to me. When there is nobody left for whom the body can be a burden, the body isn't a burden. But so long as you fight it, it is. So then, when there is nobody left to resist the thing that we call change, which is simply another word for life, and when we dispel the illusion that we think our thoughts, instead of being just a stream of thoughts, and that we feel our feelings instead of being just feelings, it's like saying, to feel the feelings is a redundant expression. It's like saying, actually, I hear sounds. For there are no sounds which are not heard. Hearing is sound. Seeing is sight. You don't see sights. Sightseeing is a ridiculous word. You could just say either sighting or seeing, one or the other, but sightseeing is nonsense. So we keep doubling our words, and this doubling is comparable to oscillation in an electrical system where there's too much feedback, where you remember in the old-fashioned telephone, where the receiver was separate from the mouthpiece, the transmitter. If you wanted to annoy someone who was abusing you on the telephone, you could make them listen to themselves by putting the receiver to the mouthpiece. But it actually didn't have that effect. It set up oscillation. It started to howl. It could be very, very hard on the ears. The same way, if you turn a television camera at the monitor, that is to say, the television set in the studio, the whole thing will start to jiggle. The visual picture will be of oscillation, like that. And the same thing happens here. When you get to think that you think your thoughts, the you standing aside the thoughts has the same sort of consequence as seeing double. And then you think, can I observe the thinker thinking the thoughts? Or, I am worried, and I ought not to worry, but because I can't stop worrying, I'm worried because I worry. And you see where that could lead to. It leads to exactly the same situation that happens in the telephone. And that is what we call anxiety, trembling. But this discipline that we're talking about of Nagarjunas abolishes anxiety, because you discover that no amount of anxiety makes any difference to anything that's going to happen. In other words, from the first standpoint, the worst is going to happen. You're all going to die. And don't just put it off in the back of your mind and say, I'll consider that later. It's the most important thing to consider now, because it's going to enable you to let go. I notice that when people solve their so-called physical problems, when, for example, you didn't have enough money, and then you get enough money, then you start worrying about your health. And then, of course, you can take reasonable precautions about your health. You can get the right shots and immunizations and so on. But there's absolutely no way whatsoever of foolproof avoidance of accidents. Despite the best predictions of physicians, you can always get heart trouble suddenly, or kidney trouble or something. And there is no safety. Therefore, going along with realizing that you quite ordinarily do transact the affairs of life in this, through your unconscious intelligence, you also realize there is really no way of protecting yourself. And an enormous amount of energy you use to protect yourself is completely wasted. In other words, you may discover through becoming aware of your own body that you're in a constant state of tension, as if ready to jump, ready to defend yourself, or even you're trying to hold your body together. Charlotte Selver finds that when she gets people to lie on the floor and relax, they can't do it because they are in fact trying to hold their bodies together, in the fear that if they didn't, they would disappear into a kind of jello and slop all over the floor. And all that, you see, all that constant sense of I should control what's going on is completely wasted energy, for the simple reason that conscious attention is not really the effective controlling force in your life. It's merely the lookout. It's merely an information source which warns the organism as a whole of unusual features of the environment, unusual changes. That's why conscious attention tends to notice things that move rather than things that are relatively still. Why it tends to notice figures rather than backgrounds. Because it is the radar of the organism, it is the troubleshooter. And if you identify yourself with your troubleshooter, well then you become one-sided and you become a perpetually anxious person. Whereas on the other hand, if you see that you are identified principally not with that troubleshooter, but with the whole organism, then you become identified rather with that aspect of your being which is in a constantly harmonious relationship to its environment. We can, of course, explore at another moment in the seminar those peculiar kinds of relationship to the environment when the organism is being burnt up in a forest fire, or something of that kind, and how it responds to all those changes of circumstances that are, as we say from the relative point of view, destructive to the organism. But actually, the organism and the environment are not two things. The environment is not the enemy of the organism, nor is the organism the enemy of the environment. Their behavior goes together in a constant and rhythmic expression of the greater organism, of which they are both aspects. And the more your vision is widened, and the more you live from that point of view, the more you see the total lack of necessity of being on the defensive all the time. Furthermore, as soon as you're not on the defensive and not trying to hold on to your control of life, by reason of the greater energy available to you, and by reason of your, I would say, basically friendly and cooperative and open attitude to other people, you are, by this non-defending attitude, much better protected than you would otherwise be. Because it's people who've got a chip on their shoulders and who are on the defensive who are always troublemakers. Whereas people who are, generally speaking, friendly to whomever they relate, don't get into difficulty. They don't create difficulty. It's the same thing as cats. When cats fall, cats are relaxed and therefore don't get hurt. And so my father once, when he was a young man, suddenly slipped on a staircase. It was very steep on it, and fell down, and it happened so quickly he didn't have time to resist. And therefore he wasn't hurt at all. This, you see, is the principle of falling in judo. You learn to fall in a certain kind of cat-like, heavy loose way. And so when you get thrown, you don't get hurt. And experts can fall on concrete and still not be hurt. Not just on padded mats and things like that. So all this comes about, not so much through a system or effort, but it comes about through a clear understanding of what your situation actually is. Face the facts. We talk, of facing facts as something difficult. Preachers and politicians are always talking about hard facts and down-to-earth realities, as if they were something very unpleasant that we have to wake up to. But I would rather say that the facts of our situation of the world aren't so bad. I mean, that if we did arrive at the facts, we would find that many things that we call hard facts and difficult problems are simply the result of not facing the facts, not seeing what our situation is, but not realizing that we are completely vulnerable, and there's no way of being otherwise. We are unprotected, and that, however, protecting ourselves is not the way of life that evolution has favored. You see, contrast the mollusks and the mammals. The mollusks have hard shells on the outside and the soft flesh inside the shells. The mammals have the soft flesh on the outside and the hard bones in the middle of the flesh. Now, this species is more viable biologically because it is more sensitive. And so it's found that this is why we abandoned armor in warfare, because it so constricted motion and so reduced vision and sensibility and speed of movement that it really didn't work out. And so in the same way, you could think of the disastrous French experiment of trusting an imaginary line. What a flop that was. And all elaborate defense systems are illusions. They don't work. Because life is basically lived as an act of faith, is an adventure into the unknown. So to the degree you see that you come to your senses, and see that's the way things are, whether you like it or not. This realization alone is the greatest help in actually attaining the attitude of let-go-ness and the understanding of let-go-ness and all the new energy that comes with it. Self is also known in Sanskrit as Brahman. This is a neuter word. Brahman is from the root BRH, which means to expand, to grow. It isn't quite clear exactly why I sometimes have nightmares about a world of echoes, in which there are only echoes and echoes of echoes and echoes of echoes of echoes, reverberating forever down the empty corridors of mind. Now you see, it's true, we mustn't give the show away. That's why there are esoteric teachings. But on the other hand, there is another opposite extreme, which is not realizing that the show is a show. And that's as bad as giving the show away. So you have always, when you are in the theater, say you go to the movies, and you go to see some great horror movie, awful thing. Well, why does one do it? You want a thrill. And the whole of the universe wants a thrill. That's what it's all about. Otherwise it would be boring. But when you go to the movie, you know in your heart of hearts that it's only a movie. And yet you contrive to some degree to forget this while you're there. And therefore get scared and feel real creeps. But that's great. Some people like to go and cry. They go and see some tragedy and just love to weep. Because it's a catharsis. It gets all the salt out of it or something. And so you do this thing. And it is, we can say it's vicarious. But that is the spirit of showmanship, of play. So one might say then that it is possible in this life to attain a sort of metaphysical courage, in which you really know deep within that the most harrowing experiences that physical existence can offer are a show. Now this is the what you might call ultimate nerve. And for example, when the samurai in Japan studied Zen, that's what they wanted to get from it. They wanted to get ultimate nerve, so that absolutely nothing would faze them. So there is a poem that says, "Under the sword lifted high, there is hell making me tremble. But go ahead, there is the land of bliss." Don't hesitate. So don't be blocked. Don't be phased, nonplussed by the illusion. Now you would say, well, that's all very well, but I can't bring myself. I start to shake and I can't stop it. It's not to do with my will. And no amount of gritting my teeth, clenching my muscles, exercising my willpower can get rid of the shakes when I am really scared. That's true. But you must remember that the secret to all this is not to be afraid of fear. When you can really allow yourself to be afraid, and you don't resist the experience of fear, you are truly beginning to master fear. But when you refuse to be afraid, you are resisting fear. And that simply sets up a vicious circle of being afraid of fear and being afraid of being afraid of fear and so on. And that's what we call worry. Worry is simply a chronic condition. And people who worry are going to worry no matter what happens. Because when one possible threat is exterminated, they will immediately discover another. Because worry is an infinitely skinned onion. And you can go on and on and on, because the moment you reduce the size of the onion and you get your worried out about this, suddenly your whole sense of distance and size changes. Because you're looking so intently at this little onion, it fills your whole field of vision. And there's once you get a big onion, see? You start peeling that down. But as you get another little one about this size, then it enlarges itself in your judgment and your sense of values. And then once more, it's colossal. Now, that's always going on. So if you are disposed to worry, there is always plenty to worry. You make plenty of money and you have no troubles about that, then you start wondering if you're going to get a disease. The doctor says, no, it's all right, there's nothing wrong with you. Then you wonder if you're going to get into an accident. Then you take precautions, and then you wonder if there's going to be a political revolution, etc. Whether your house is going to be robbed. There's always something. So it is really, this kind of worrying is a completely useless pursuit. And yet, we feel a little guilty if we don't do it. Because it's somehow put into us that a proper amount of worrying is showing a good sense of responsibility. You're concerned. And Paul Tillich used this word concern in a special way. And Quakers always use the word concern. And all people, you might say, who are socially conscious are concerned. So when we say I'm concerned, it means I have a frown on my face. And I'm worried about you, about the nation, about the war, so on, concerned. Until it said, religion is ultimate concern. I am concerned about the universe. And he used this wonderful decontaminated word for God, which he got from Eckhart, the ground of being. See, God still has whiskers on it, but the ground of being doesn't. And so, ultimate concern is to be concerned about the ground of being. Well, now, I don't think, I'm not sure about Church. I knew him. And he's a very wonderful man. But what I call concern, the way I would want to interpret it, instead of this sort of frown, is something more like amazement. In other words, that existence is extremely peculiar. I can't explain this feeling because I don't know quite how to ask a question about existence so that I could be said to be wondering about it in some sort of clear thinking way. It's a very nice thing to consider to yourself that if you were going to have an interview with the Lord God, and you would have only 5 minutes, and you might ask one question, what would you ask? And you've got plenty of time to think this over in advance. And you realize, question after question, no, that's not really the thing I want to get at. It's not that. Like, do you exist? God would say, well, of course. Yes, here I am. Am I having a hallucination?
All right. Deleted a shit ton of people. Added about 25 people. So now I only have 450 friend requests. So I got rid of a lot. I got rid of like 400 friend requests. Sweet. Fuck yes, Good night, sir. Not yet, sir. Not yet, sir. Shit, sir. Who's up for face? $420. Alright, 420. Bearded lady. Just delete Facebook, bearded lady says. You cleaning house, Dan? I'm always deleting people. Well, I've won $8 million from Nigeria, so I'm gonna go collect. Well, shit, bearded lady, give me like $20,000 of that, and I'll make sure you get like $2 million of my business. So give me that. Give me like $20,000. Give me like 50. Give me like $50,000, and then I'll pay you back like 2 million. That's not that much. You invest in me, I invest in you. That's fair. Night generous.
Okay, let's start your shooting. Let me relax your body. And this will not stop.
Okay, makes sense.
Hi, welcome to our feelings and cafe. Can I help you? Okay, I see. So, this is your first time here in our studio. Well, very welcome to our cafe. I can definitely let you know how to experience and enjoy our beautiful food. Nice to meet you. Okay, so Are you okay? Well, you said that you're struggling with insomnia, so I was worried. But it's okay because today I'm here for helping you to relax. Okay? So right now, all we need to do is just lay back.
Not quite that. What do you feel like? You're get the sensation. Simply designed for this technique of painting. They're much firmer and dry than normal paint. If you use a loose, slippery paint, you're gonna end up being a mud mixer and you're gonna be upset with me. Purchase a paint that's designed for this specific technique. It needs to be firm and dry. I can't say that enough. Other pieces of equipment that will make your job easier. The palette that you use. I like a plexiglass palette, and you need a palette that's big enough to give you sufficient work area when you're using big brushes. Because with a brush this big, you need a nice area to work in. If you've got a little teeny palette, you're gonna kill yourself trying to stay in this little area. Get you a nice big palette. It really will work fine. Plexiglass makes a good palette. Now, normally it's very clear. I've scuffed this one up so it doesn't shine on TV. But normally they're crystal clear. Okay? Also, another thing that will help you, because if you watch the television series, you know, I beat the brush against the leg of the easel and paint them, it goes everywhere. It can ruin a happy marriage in a heartbeat. This is called a brush beater rack, and it's just a little wire rack that goes in the bottom of a waste paper basket. And you shake the brush inside of the basket, then you beat the devil out of it right on these little wire things here, right across this rack. And it contains all of your brush cleaning procedure inside of the bucket. It'll keep you from covering your whole room and getting everybody covered with paint thinner. I really think it's a good investment. Very cheap little thing. So I tell you what, let's take off and we'll get started here today. As we mentioned earlier, normally the first thing we always do is cover the entire canvas with a thin, even coat of the liquid white. So we'll just dip the old 2-inch brush right into the liquid white, about like so, and we go right up here and begin covering the canvas. All we're looking for is just a nice, thin, even coat. Just really work it in. Just cover the canvas with it. Just cover the entire canvas. Probably the most common mistake made is applying too much of the liquid white. All you want is just enough to cover the entire canvas. If you think you may have a little too much liquid white, one of the easiest ways to make sure, clean and dry your brush, and then go back over the entire canvas with a clean, dry brush. That'll pick up any excess liquid white, and your canvas will be just right there. Just right. Okay. Just really scrub that off. There we go. Okay. Now, one thing that'll help, I use a canvas that's very smooth. Some people like canvas that has a little more tooth to it, more nap to it. I like a smooth canvas. I also use a canvas that has a gray primer, and that way you can tell exactly where your liquid white is. Now, if you don't have a canvas that has a gray primer, it's just a white primer. A little trick that you can do is take a little bit of liquid black, just put a tiny little bit into your liquid white, and it'll give it a gray cast. And then when you paint your white canvas, you can tell exactly where it's covered. Okay, long horizontal and vertical strokes, just to ensure that you have a nice, even coating of liquid white over the entire surface. And you're ready to go. We wash your brush. And we wash our brushes with odorless paint thinner. And I really recommend you use odorless thinner. So screw down here in the bottom of this bucket. Scrub the bristles against the screen. The solid material settle to the bottom. And your paint thinner, it remains relatively clean. Shake off the excess. Then, and that's the fun part of this whole technique. Tell you what, let's make a happy little sky. And for that, I'm going to go right into a touch of phthalo blue. Just a little bit. Just pull a little bit of the color out and then tap the bristles firmly into the color. This will assure a nice, even distribution of paint all the way through the bristles. It does not take much color, just a little. Okay, let's go up here. Now then, just using little crisscross strokes, begin laying in a basic sky. And start at the top and work downward. That way your brush will pick up the liquid white, and automatically, the color gets lighter toward the horizon. Let the canvas work, let the liquid white work, let your brush work. You just enjoy. You just enjoy. Because painting should make you happy. Should be a fun experience. And you can always add a little more color. Start with very little color. You can always go back and add a little more. That's very simple. It's essentially going to try to take it off, though. You can do it, but it's very difficult. Okay, and that quickly we've laid in a happy little sky. That easy. Okay, now then, while we have this brush dirty, let's have a little touch of water in this paint. I love water, and it's always fun to do. So I'm going to go right back into my phthalo blue, reach right over here and grab a touch, just a touch of the phthalo green. Don't need much of that. It's very strong. Just a touch. Phthalo blue and phthalo green. And just tap it into the bristles again. Okay. Now decide where you want the water to be, and pull from the outside in. Start on the outside, pull in. Start on the bottom, work up. So it gets lighter and lighter toward the horizon. Now see, if you start here and go over, you lose a very distinct line, which is hard to blend out. But you can if you happen to forget. But blend the outside in. And leave a little area open right in here. Look like a little sheen of light coming across the water when you're done. Start at the bottom, work up, let it get lighter and lighter toward the top. Lighter and lighter. Just like so. There we go. See how easy it is? That's all there is to it. Now then, I have several brushes going, and you'll find that it saves you a lot of time and a lot of money and wasted paint if you have several brushes. If you have one for dark color and one for light. Otherwise, your good paint's going to end up down in this washer bucket. Okay, clean brush, and I'm just going to blend right across it, very lightly. I don't want to lose this light area, but I just want to blend it all together. Okay, it's like so. Okay. And that's ready, all fixed up. Now, if you just have a tiny bit of paint on your brush, you can just wrap it like that, and it'll take that paint off. Okay, let's use the fan brush today. We'll build a happy little cloud. Let's go right into titanium white. I'm going to reach down here, right back, get the least little touch a bit more of the bright red. I'll put a little sunlight in these clouds. I'll make a happy little cloud today. Happy little cloud. Okay. Decide where your cloud lives. Maybe he lives right in here. Take the corner of the brush and just make tiny little circles. Tiny little circles, round and around and around. Don't stay in one place and keep working. You just stay in one place here and keep grinding the paint. You're going to end up with big cotton balls up in the sky. You can also do this just as well with a 1-inch brush or 2-inch brush. 2-inch brush makes fantastic clouds. Now with a clean, dry 2-inch brush, use the top corner of the brush, and you want to blend just the base of these clouds out. Not touching the top yet, just blend. See, very lightly, very, very lightly. Just like so. Barely, barely blending. Okay, now we're going to fluff it. And this, we're going to do a big circular pattern. Just grab it gently and fluff it upward. Just fluff it. And you're going to pull up little stringy things when you do it. Don't worry about it, because when you go across, they just go away. And that easy. You have one beautiful little cloud. Maybe we'll put another happy little cloud in here. Maybe this other cloud, maybe he lives right over here. Same thing, tiny little circles. Just drop it in. Where do you think you should live? He lives right there. And in your world, you put a cloud where you want it. You don't necessarily need to put a cloud where I do. You put it where you think it. You think it lives somewhere else, and that's where it ought to be. There we go. Lift it, gently, lift it, very lightly. Just go across it. Isn't that easy? You got another happy little cloud right there. Absolutely no problem. Okay, wipe off the fan brush. I just have some paper towels over here that I cleaned the brushes on. Wipe it off and we're in business. Let's build, maybe way back in here, there's just a small little mountain that lives. So let's take a touch of Prussian blue, a little bit of midnight black, we're going to get a little touch of alizarin crimson. So we get blue, black, alizarin crimson, maybe even a little Van Dyke brown. What the heck? What the heck? Just drop it in. Dark colors. Okay, pull the paint out as flat as you can get it. Just really mash down hard. And take your knife and cut across. See there? Get that little roll of paint. This knife has a straight edge on it. And by having a straight edge, it's very easy to load it. Let's go in here. Okay. And maybe our little mountain. Got to make a big decision here. Maybe he lives right here. Just floats around in the clouds. Push him very firmly. Very firmly. We're trying to push this color right into the fabric. And you just decide where you want little bumps to live. See, there's one. Wherever. Maybe these happy little things right there. Scrape off all the excess paint. Just really get in there and scrape hard. You can't hurt this. Just scrape it off. The only thing you're worried about is this nice outside edge. In here, you could care less. And then with a 2-inch brush, I want to grab this And because of the liquid white, canvas is wet, you can pull this and move it. Just move it. Remember, you can see the entire mountain. It's always more distinct at the top than it is at the bottom. And by doing this, that will happen automatically. Just like so. So just let it sort of float off in the sky there. There we go. Because this is a very